Sometimes I just cannot resist a really good find at the thrift store. I have these great ideas on what to do with it, but by the time they get home, they just end up sitting on the shelf collecting dust. I've got a few items today that I'm going to be putting to use. I'm really excited to share them with you. Let's get started. This cutting board has seen better days, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think it's usable as a cutting board any longer. So I wanted to do a really fun technique on it that I was actually inspired by over on Pinterest. And I just fell in love with this technique. I thought it looked so beautiful. I've been saving this image on Pinterest for a while. And I thought, okay, that's it. I need to just finally do this project. Okay, so I'm going to remove the knife, and I'm actually going to just get rid of that because I won't be needing it for this project. I'm also going to take the handle, and you can see I removed it. It was just screwed in, and I'm going to attach it to the back side. Now, it's not going to be a perfect fit because I don't have like a slot there for it to fit right in, but it will do the trick. I'm using some off-white craft paint and just a dry brush here, and I'm just going to roughly paint over the surface of the cutting board. I'm not being perfect about this. I want it to be really kind of sloppy and just kind of rough and rustic looking. Once that's dried, I'm now taking a sanding block and I'm going to distress it even more. I just wanted to kind of get rid of some of those brush strokes and also wanted it to be really kind of grungy looking. Next, I'll be taking a cloth and removing all the dust. I have this beautiful napkin. It's left over from a previous project. And I'm going to be taking this bird design and placing it onto the cutting board. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this trick before where you wet a fine paintbrush and you go around your image. You just want to make sure that you go far enough away from the image that when you go and tear the excess away, you're not going to accidentally remove your image. You do want a little bit of a white border. So once you've got that in place, you can start to tear away the excess napkin. And I am going to be also taking some of the roses from a couple of the other images here. And I'm also going to be removing some of those sharp edges away as well. All right, so I've got that all ready to go, and I'm just going to figure out my placement, and I'm also going to figure out whether or not I need to remove any of the blossoms or buds or any part of the image, and I did remove a bud right there. Didn't really like the way it looked. And then I'm also going to add some of the extra roses that I trimmed off. There's just a few spots I thought that could use a little bit extra. I didn't end up using this bottom one, but I just wanted to show you what that looked like anyways. I'm using some matte decoupage glue, and I'm going to give a generous coat onto where the napkin image is going to go. You want to be quite generous because the wood does absorb quite a bit of the moisture. Once you have enough glue in place, you can then place your napkin into the glue. I was trying to lay it down gently so I wouldn't have too many wrinkles. You can gently pull it and smooth it out, but you do want to be very careful because it's very delicate. I'm adding some extra glue underneath some of the napkin edges where there wasn't any glue. And I know that there's some techniques that will help you to apply napkins so you get a nice smooth finish, but I'm okay with the wrinkles if I do get a few. I just find it adds to the rustic look of the piece. So I'm going to go ahead and add some of those extra images as needed. I did add just one of these roses as I mentioned before. And then I'm going to start to add a layer of decoupage over the napkin. So I allowed this to dry well. Now I'm going to be using my sanding block again. I'm going to distress a bit of the napkin just in a few spots. And also I found that there was a bit of the images in areas where I didn't really like the look of it. So I just wanted to sand that away. I did end up having to go in and actually use some finer grit sanding paper. I found that the sanding paper, I was able to get a better, I don't know, like I was able to press down harder using it, because with the sanding blocks, there is foam in it, so that does kind of give way a little bit. Here I'm using the sanding paper and I was able to remove some of the napkin a lot better. I'm also using my rag to remove any of the dust and debris that's left behind. So I'm going to now add another coat of my matte decoupage. This time I'm going over the entire front surface of the cutting board. It'll just unify the texture of the front, and then allow it to dry, and then it's ready to be put on display. And I really am so happy with how this turned out. It looks just like the images that I had seen on Pinterest. I am really happy with it. So you may notice that I've got a bit of a different background here. This is just going to be temporary. I am in the middle of reworking my craft room, and it's been a really big job. So in the meantime, I hope you don't mind my little, I don't know, I guess it's like an organized, chaotic mess. I found this basket. I actually got 2 of them. They were only $1 each. I'm not exactly sure what they were originally used for. Maybe they held some coasters. I'm not sure, but I just thought they were really interesting. And I really liked the fibrous texture of it. So I am going to be removing the closure, and I do remove the bottom hoop as well. I did leave the hoop that's on the lid intact, as that was going to be the anchor for the closure, new closure that I will be making for this. So I'm going to measure the inside of the little box here, because I've got some handmade papers that I picked up from a stationery store, such as these ones, as well as some handmade papers that I picked up from the thrift store. And I needed to just know how big I needed to cut them. I know not everybody's going to be able to find papers like this, so I am curious, would any of you like to see how to make paper? It's something I've been wanting to try for quite a while, and I thought it would actually be a really fun summer craft to do, but I want to make sure that I've got enough interest in this topic before I go ahead and dive in. So please let me know down in the comments section if that is something that you want to see. So all my papers here are kind of different in texture. These green ones, I love them, but they're thicker. And I found this came from an envelope set, and I got this scrap. And I'm also going to include some mixed media paper, which is this one here. So I'm going to be making my sheets 4 inches tall, but the folds are all going to vary. Now I did try to cut this one here with my paper trimmer, and some of them ended up tearing just because of all the texture. So you may need to use a steel ruler and a cutting knife. So here I'm going to just take a measurement, because I wanted my fold line to be 4 inches in. And then I marked where I wanted that. I'm going to take my steel ruler and I'm going to be pushing the opposite side up against the steel ruler just to create my fold line. And you're going to see, yes, my papers are offset, but I wanted that. I wanted this to have a bit more of a, I don't know, a different look to it. I wanted my papers to be all kind of random. Another trick is lining your paper pages up against the other one. Center it and then create your fold line like you see me doing here. And it just makes it so that some of my fold lines are even with each other. Now, you may want to tear some of the edges of your paper if you'd like. And that's just personal preference. Some of my papers I'm going to fold right in half like this one. You can see all my papers are kind of different sizes. All right, so I've got these ones, these brown kind of colored ones. Those ones I got from a stationery store. I've probably had them like for 25 years, and I kept on holding on to them. I'm going to use those as the cover of my little notebooks like you see me doing right here. I'm creating 2 signatures. So a signature is a group of papers like you see me gathering up here. And I'm going to just kind of mix the papers together, putting the fold lines together, and then creating some cute little booklets. Okay, so once you got your signatures made, I just made 2, and I can't remember how many pages are in each, but I just kind of went based off of the thickness of the booklet that it created. I'm going to be adding some binder clips on each side as I'm going to be binding these sheets together, and I needed to make sure that my pages will stay together. I'm going to be now taking a measurement here, and I'm going to be finding the center of my pages and adding just a dot, and then I'm going 1 centimeter from each end, and again adding a dot. That's where I'm going to be punching holes in so I can stitch these pages together. I'm opening up an old book, putting my fold line in the crease of the book using a punching tool such as an awl, and I'm going to press through the pages to create a hole for my threads to go in. Now this is a homemade awl that I had. It's just like an old tool that I had attached just a thick needle in, and it works really well as an awl so I can bind some books together. Now this is some thinner twine that I had on hand. It is wax twine. Now unfortunately I do not know where I got this from. All I remember, it was part of a jewelry pack that I had, but it was nice and thin and it was waxed, so I knew it would work well. I'm using 3 lengths of this twine, and I'm going to thread it onto a blunt end needle. Now you could use some embroidery floss if you like, or some crochet string. That would work well too. You just want something that's nice and sturdy. All right, so I've got my needle threaded, and what I like to do is go from the middle on the outside and pull it through the middle inside the book, go to the top and thread it back out, go all the way to the bottom, and now this is like the outside of my cover. So I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom here and push it through, and then I'm going to come back through the middle, and we're going to be ending on the front cover, but I want to make sure that my twine ends up on the opposite side. You'll see I've got 1 tail on one side of that center string and 1 tail on the other side. That way here, when I go to tie it, it'll help hold it all into place. So having wax twine, you get a really nice strong knot. So that's why I like to use it if I can. I'm going to just trim off the excess, and then you can take the binder clips off, and you can do the same thing on your other signature or your second little booklet. So this is just personal preference, but I'm going to just trim off that little bit of white edge that was sticking out. You could just tear it off if you'd like, or you could leave it. It doesn't really matter. This is just something that was kind of bothering me a little bit, so I decided to trim it off. So I was kind of thinking like I was going to create one full book out of these 2 signatures, but I decided that I'm going to keep them as separate little notebooks. I'm going to gather them together with this stretchy lace that I had. Again, came from the thrift store. I'm just going to trim off a piece that's going to wrap around this little bundle that we've created. I thought it would actually kind of make a pretty little gift set. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that, and then I'm going to glue the 2 ends together. So again, I'm going to just wrap it around. I did tug on it a little bit just so I knew that they would, the elastic in the lace would help hold those booklets together nicely. I just use my thumb so I know where I need to put my glue, added a little bit of hot glue, and then I'm going to press that other end into place. Be careful because it is going to be hot. For another little added touch, I decided to add this natural button that I had in my stash. Again, I thought it would look really nice with the theme that we've got going on. And I'm just going to use hot glue to put that into place and allow that glue to set. All right, and then all you need to do is gather up your 2 booklets, make sure they're nice and even, and then put that lace around it, and it looks really, really pretty. thought it was just make it maybe a little bit easier to create a little gift set like this. Okay, so for the closure for my basket, as I said, I removed the other parts of the closure, but I left the one loop on. I found this interesting rickrack that I had in my stash, and I pulled it through, and I'm wrapping it around because I needed 2 long tails. So I just needed to make sure that I had enough on each end, because that's what I'm going to use to tie it off. So then it stays all nice and closed. So I'm just going to tie a knot on to the loop now, like you see me doing right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and test it out again by wrapping it around. Just going to wrap it around a couple times. It all depends on how long your string or trim, whatever you're using, is going to be, will determine how long you need it to be. I'm going to just go ahead and tie that on now. I strongly recommend using a bow, because of course a bow you can undo, and this looks great. I really like it. Now I'm going to just put those little booklets into place. I would find a little pencil or a pen that you can add in here if you'd like. And now I'm just going to close it up just as before. But I think this turned out really nice, and I think it would make such a unique gift to give somebody for Mother's Day, a birthday, anytime. So I found these really fun slide, I guess they're like slide protectors or slide blanks. And I got them from an Instagram shop called A Little Corner Shop. She is a Canadian, and I love to support her. And she finds some really fun treasures, and it's really fun to see what she gets. And that's where I got these from. So I'm gonna have her link down in my video description for you to go and check out. Now, I'm not sure where she all ships to, so you'll have to ask her, but you're definitely going to want to check out her Instagram shop. So I'm using 4 of the slide blanks. What I'm going to be using are these strawberry clear stickers. Now, I'm sorry, I don't remember where I got them, but honestly, you can use any clear stickers that you have in your stash, or that you can find online or in a craft store. Another alternative would be to use some washi stickers. You could also use some washi tape. You just want to make sure the image you use is going to fit inside your slide. You can also use some printable transparency sheets as well. To open these, you got to just kind of play around with the latch a little bit and then pop them open. And now I'm going to start to place my stickers. Now I'm just making sure that my stickers do fit inside so you can see the image. I struggled with getting the backing off of these stickers. I kind of loosened it a little bit with my weeding tool here from my Cricut machine. And then I kind of was able to use my thumbnail to start to pull it away, but I really did struggle. I worked on this for a while. So if any of you have some tips on how to remove the backing off of clear stickers like this, please leave that down in the comment section. That would really help me out. Anyways, I did manage to get those backings off, and now all you want to do is center the image into the slide so it looks decent, and then you can close it up. There's some little spaces on the front of these little slide blanks to add some dates or wording on them. I have these word stickers in my stash, and I decided to add some of those words into those little spots. Now, I do recommend that you use something like some tacky glue or some other glue to help hold it down. I just went and put them into place, and I kind of regretted it afterwards, but hey, you live and learn. Another thing is too, you could add some resin or some dimensional magic to help hold those stickers into place as well. And that would also create a really neat texture on them. All right, I'm gonna just quickly show you one of the washi stickers here. I just found this one that would fit really well into the slide. I just wanted to show you what it would look like in the slide blank. So I'm just gonna trim it down to size and then remove the backing and put the sticker into place. So you're gonna see here the shadow of my finger in behind, and that just goes to show you that these will work too, because you do want some transparency. All right, so I've got all my slides ready to go. I'm gonna be using these square dowels that I have in my craft stash. I'm cutting them down, and I actually should get some of those miter snips, handheld snips, because I'm finding that I need to cut some of these wood pieces and I need a nice clean cut, but they don't cut properly, especially wire snips or pruning shears. But I needed 4 pieces of the wood here, and I just cut the ends off of each of those square dowels, so then I've got a nice flat bottom. I'm going to be using these to help hold the slides all together. So I'm going to add some hot glue. The hot glue works really well for this. I'm using the blunt end facing up, and I've got just a little bit of a lip there showing. That's going to make it so I can butt the 2 edges together. You can see how I attach that. And now you can't even see that wood dowel now. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some more hot glue to the stick or the dowel, and then I'm going to put my second slide into place. I'm going to be doing that for all the slides and the square wood dowels. The square wood dowels is just creating like a frame to help hold all of these pieces together. Now again, I was inspired by something I had seen on Pinterest, and I knew I had these slide blanks that I haven't used. I've had these probably for, I don't know, I want to say at least a year. And when I saw that project, I knew I wanted to recreate something similar to it. So I went ahead and decided to try it out today for you all. So I've got all my slides into place here. I've just got that one last little corner there. It was a little bit trickier to get the glue in underneath. I was really impressed with how well this hot glue held everything together. And that's it. That's looking great. Now I wanted to light it up. I found this LED votive at Dollar Tree, and I really liked the light because it wasn't flickering, and it actually loosened up. I was able to just pull it out really easily, and there was hardly any glue holding it into place, which worked well for me. So I wanted to prop it up onto this little wood slice, but I didn't like the white plastic. So I have some birch bark in my stash, and I decided to cover up that white edge with the birch bark by just using some hot glue. Now you could paint it out, or my daughter actually suggested, she said, why don't you put some like craft sticks on the bottom of your slides to create a bit of a platform, and then place your lights inside. So I actually might do that, or if I don't, then I thought I would suggest it to you all, because I thought that was a really, really good idea. You could just use a flickering votive candle inside here if you'd like. You could try that out for sure. But I didn't want the flickering light. I just wanted this nice constant light. I thought it looked so pretty. And now I'm going to just put everything into place and show you what it looks like. Isn't it cute? My mom actually found these. They're like fabric samples. There's like upholstery and like tea towels and linens. And she gave me a bunch of these to use for my crafting, but I haven't really put them to use. I loved these ones, and I have got 3 of them. And so I'm going to use 2 of them for a fun project. So the first thing I needed to do was iron these. They were badly wrinkled. I am using my Cricut mini press and will spritz the surface with some water. I have to tell you that this Cricut mini press has been one of my favorite tools in my craft room. It's so easy to store it and works really well. If any of you are interested in knowing some of my top favorite craft tools and materials or supplies that I use, if you want to see that in a video, let me know down in the comments, and I will put that video together for you this summer. All right, so I've got those all ironed. Now I'm going to just start to line everything up. Now, the 2 middle lines aren't lining up exactly. Again, these are samples, but I'm going to make this work anyways. The top edge was starting to fray a little bit, so I decided to use some hot glue and just fold over that top edge. and just glue that down. Thankfully, I was able to get this nice and even because I was following the stripes in the pattern of this fabric. You could use some fabric glue for this step, but I found that the hot glue worked just fine. And I do know that you can get some fabric hot glue, which is actually something that I am wanting to invest in. I'll just have a separate glue gun that will be strictly for the hot glue, fabric glue, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing to the other piece of fabric. I'm just going to cut away any of the loose threads that were left behind. That's just personal preference. I just wanted to clean that up a little bit. Now I'm going to lay the two right sides together so the wrong sides are facing up, and I'm going to line up all my fabric here. I want to make sure all the edges are lined up. I'm going to be using this Aleene's Fabric Fusion Glue. I have never used this before. I have used the Gorilla Fabric Glue, which works really well, but I wanted to give this a try. So if you want, you could definitely sew this, but I'm not much of a sewer, so I'm using the fabric glue, and I'm running a straight bead over along the edge and then pressing the two edges together. You want to try and make sure that that bead of glue is nice and straight as possible. I'm going to be doing this for each edge of the bag except for the top, as we are making a tote bag out of these fabrics. All right, so I've allowed this to dry overnight and I'm pulling on it here and it's holding together really well. So I am going to trim the corners a little bit here. I started off using pinking shears, but later on you're going to see I'm just going to use my regular scissors. I need to get these pinking shears sharpened. They were from my mom, and they're old and they needed to be resharpened because I don't know if she ever did or if I have ever sharpened them. So I'm also going to be adding some grommets to the holes. Now my holes weren't even, so I just made some slits just to adjust where I needed to place my grommets to make sure that they are aligned. I'm going to use the one with the long neck. That's going to be the front. So I'm doing this on the back side. And then I'm going to be putting the flat one, that's going to be on the inside of our bag. That's going to go on the top as you see it right now. Follow the instructions for your grommet package kit. All right, so I'm going to just put the base in place, and then I'm going to get the hammering tool and my hammer and start to tap this into place. Now, while I was doing this, I realized I should have used a nice hard flat surface. My surface wasn't flat enough and I made a few mistakes, so I had to make my corrections off camera. And I also should have done that before I glued all my edges together, but I wasn't sure because, like I said before, my holes weren't totally lined up, so I needed to make some adjustments. All right, so I turned the bag inside out just to test it out to see how things were going. And I'm like, you know what? The edges, there's still too much bulk fabric there. So I decided to turn it back around, and I'm going to trim off a bit of the excess on the sides here. And this is where I decided just to use my regular scissors because I had better luck trimming off the excess. And then I also needed to glue the top edge together a little bit better. And I decided to just use hot glue for that as well. And I also ended up trimming off a bit of the corners again too, because I tested it out again and I just felt the corners were still a little bit too bulky. All right, so I'm going to just test it out here again. I like to grab the corners first and then pull that out. And then you can use a pencil or a paintbrush to help straighten those corners out more. Here I'm just using a pencil just to push those corners out. And then that's our bag. Isn't it looking great? But of course, now we need to add a handle. I've got this rope here. It happens to be the same color as the top part of our tote bag. And I got it from a store called Dollarama here in Canada. I know you can get like rope like this at Dollar Tree as well, or any other craft store. So all I'm gonna do is just kind of measure out the length that I want. And then I'm making sure that I've got enough length on each end so then I can tie a knot. Little tip here, use some tape on the area where you want to cut through. That's going to help to prevent the ends of the rope from fraying. So you just want to wrap that tape around a few times And then I'm going to cut down the middle. So there's tape on each end now. And then I'm going to be doing this twice. All right, so I got my 2 pieces of rope cut. I'm going to go starting from the front, and on the inside, I'm tying a knot on each end. I'm going to do that for all 4 of the grommets. So if you'd like, you can add a closure to the top. I didn't bother because I like to use bags like this for like some journals or just basic things like that. Nothing that is like too personal or what have you, but that is it. So I am going to add my nature journal and like a scavenger pocketbook journal that I have, adding a pencil case that I got from Dollar Tree. It fits in there really nicely. And there we go. A fun little tote that was really easy to put together using those scraps that I had. I have so many thrift store makeover ideas for you to check out in this playlist right here. I hope you enjoyed today's video and were inspired to dig through all your thrift store finds. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.